Hi creatives, I am Dimma and you're welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how to make a simple monostrap asymmetrical gathered dress. Just like what you can see the pinned post is the one I am trying to recreate, and the one I formed on paper is exactly the one I did. So if this sounds like what you'd be interested in knowing how I did it, then you have to stick around till the end. If you've not subscribed to my channel, do well to subscribe and turn on your notification bell to be the first to know each time I upload my videos. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into the video. So to make this, I started with my plain paper. I had to place it on fold because you know that this is a monostrap dress. Okay, one side has a shoulder and the other part does not. So I have made my basic neckline of 3 by 3 and connected with my armhole curve, and this is the shoulder measurement, half of shoulder measurement that I marked, and here is the shoulder slope of 1 inch, and I connected to the neck. So after that, the next is to measure your bust measurement divided by 4. You mark at 2 points and then go ahead and connect. So after this, we have to mark 5 inches down and then come in by 3/4 inch. Then draw your armhole measurement divided by 2. After drawing, you connect with your armhole curve, just as you can see me do. Then we'll continue with the rest of the pattern. So having done this, the next thing we are going to do is to take the bust point on the bust, the waist. Okay, bust point on the bust, and of course the waist. So after that, I'll rule horizontal lines across these levels. Okay, so the next is the hip. Okay, just I have to leave that for now and continue. So this is the bust, this is the on the bust, and this is the waist, and of course the hip. The hip landed on at the end of the paper. So this is the waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1/4 inch dart intake. Okay, so you will understand why our dart intake increased from 1 to 1/4. This is the bust to bust, which is 6, but what I marked here is 3, which is the half. I dropped by 1 inch and ensured it's at 3. So I marked half inch on both sides of this one at the waist and connected to the 1 inch drop from the bust point to make my dart. So after that, here is 3/4, and the first I took is quarter. Here is 3/4 and here is quarter. I connected to the dart leg, and this increased the dart by quarter, and that is why the dart is 1/4 inch. So you can see how I connected this to the bust point, and this is the on the bust tightening. Where I shaded will be going off at the end of this tutorial. Now this is the difference between the front and the back half length, and I had to go ahead and connect to the bust point just like so. So watch closely and you will understand everything I am doing to achieve this pattern. So here is the hip measurement divided by 4. I marked and I connected to the waist. So everything I'm doing here is exactly what you're going to do to get exactly this style. Okay, you know that even if it's on a paper, provided the styling or the creation comes out perfect, that is still how it's going to come out on the real fabric. So now I connected this to the armhole, and I took 1 inch from that point on the armhole and connected again to the bust point. So I'll extend this one by 1 inch extra, and then I will blend this to the armhole. Okay, 1 inch, and I will connect this to the armhole. So this is what I have at this stage. This is me completing the dart. I measured 5.5 to 6 inches down and ensured it's at 3 from the center front, and I completed my dart. So you can see what I have so far. So the next is to come to the neckline, go in by about 1 to 1.5 inches, then drop here by the amount you want, but I dropped by about 1/4 as well, and then I connected these 2 points with my curved rule. So after this, you just go ahead and cut out. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. After cutting out, you use your tracing wheel and then duplicate the pattern on the second side of the paper. Yes, because you know that this paper is on fold. So what I'm doing here is just to trace out the dots that we have on this side of the paper so that we have exactly the same thing on the second side of the paper. So when I opened up, I had to use my marker pen and trace out everything that I have traced with the tracing wheel. Now the next is to go ahead and draw out the neckline shape, okay, to create the off shoulder and then the monostrap, just to create the monostrap neckline. Okay, so you can see me cut out that part. Of course, we'll be adding something to form the lacing that is on the off shoulder. So this is what I got at the end of the day. This is what I had, and this is the waist. And if you want, you can make a sort of conical on the hip if you want. So but I don't want to go into that, so I just left the hip to, you know, flow naturally the way it is supposed to be. But if you want to enhance the hip, go ahead and do like a conical kind of effect on the hip by increasing the hip measurement slightly by 1 inch, okay, and then connecting it to the waistline to make it conical. So what I'm doing here is to draft the back pattern. I did that by ruling a line at the beginning of this paper. Then I did 1/3 for the neckline of the back. You can do 1/3.5 if your client is a bit big. So what I have here is the shoulder measurement divided by 2. I marked at 2 points and drew my vertical line like this. So after that, you drop here by 1 inch and connect to the neckline, just like so. So the next thing is to mark the back half length, which is the waistline for the back. And then I had to rule my line. I marked it at 2 points and I had to rule my line at that level. So here I have the hip level, which I am marking right now. And then I'm ruling a line also there. Okay. So the next is to go ahead and start taking every other measurement that we need to take. So this is the waist and that's the hip. So this is bust measurement divided by 4. You mark, if your bust is 40, divide it by 4 and it will give you 10. That is what you're going to mark here. So this is 5 inches down and then 1 inch in so that I can draw the armhole. Okay, so go ahead and take the armhole measurement divided by 2. So whatever it gives you, you mark and use your armhole curve to connect those points to form your armhole. So after that, this is the back tightening of 1/2 inch. From there, I measured waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch dart intake, and I connected to the side like this. I hope this is making sense. But if you have any question, you can ask in the comments. So after this, the next is to measure your hip. Whatever the hip measurement is, divide it by 4 and mark that measurement from fold. Connect those points to the waist and complete the back tightening downwards. Make it to just join the center back smoothly, okay? Like where you're wedging it that. I hope you understand. So after this, the next is to go ahead and drop this neckline where you want it to be and then create a fresh neckline. So what I did was to drop it like the front and create a neckline similar to the front, and then I had to go in here by about 1/4 so that I get exactly what I have in front. So if you want your front neckline to be similar to the back, this is what you're going to do, okay? But if you still want something different, feel free to do what you like. So this is me trying to draft the dart of the back. I'm ensuring that the center points of the dart from the waist to uppermost part and to the lower part, this parts are all aligned. So you can see how I drew my dart, okay? So after that, the next thing to do is to go ahead and trace this because I want to get exactly what I drafted here on the second side of this paper because I'm making a duplicate, like 2. I'm making 2 copies of this back pattern, okay? So go ahead and cut out and then This is what we have. I had to go ahead and trace the dart as well. So this is really important. So trace the dart, and this is what we have. And then go ahead and mark all of that on the second side of the paper. Okay, so make a duplicate of everything we have on this first side. The tracing wheel makes this very easy. All right, so after doing this is what I have, and this is the back pattern. You will see how I am going to use the front to place on the back to get perfectly what you want. So if you want your front and your back to be the same, this is how you place it, wrong sides facing each other, and use it to trace the back neckline. But then if you want your back to drop more, you can still do that, and that is what I want to illustrate here. So I had to drop the back by 1 inch more, and then I connected to the rest of the neckline. That is if you want your back to drop more than the front, this is what you have to do. So after dropping, you now cut it off. After drawing the neckline, you cut it out. Now the back neckline is 1 inch lower than the front. So, but then you have to maintain the level of the off shoulder for the front so that you have a perfect design. And that is what I traced right now. Now, what you're going to do is to connect it to the level of the back neckline. I hope this makes sense. That is, if you want your back to be dropped more than the front. Now, this is another creation. So feel free to be creative with this. You can take the shape of any neckline that you want for both the front and also the back. So now I'm just cutting out the back tightening, just as you can see. And yeah, this is what I have. So I've separated the back. I just wrote back. So this is what I have. If you're cutting on fabric, you just go ahead and cut this with your seam allowances. Cut it with your seam allowances because these are seamless patterns. So now I'm just tracing the waistline just to have exactly the waistline on the second part. Now this is very important. Even when you're cutting on fabric, it will help you to get very aligned zipper and every other. You will definitely need it. I like notching landmarks when I am making dresses. So now I had to go up there by the side. You can see how I marked that area. From the waistline, you can come down by about 2.5 to 3 inches and form a curve, just as you can see me do, in this video. So now you go ahead and cut out this part. I cut out, I don't need it anymore. As you can see that the design we are making is curved, so but make sure that the front is the opposite of the back. It is so important. Don't make mistake of not making the front part to be, because it's asymmetric, sometimes you may make mistakes. So you go down here by 2.5 or 3, just as I did for the back, and then use the curve rule to make it curve. It's as simple as that. Okay, you can as well take the shape, use the shape of the back to make the front, but you know that the back is already cut open, so it may not be the best idea to do here. So that's why I used my curve rule to just make my curve. And yeah, this is what I got at the end of the day, and I'm going to cut this out. So if you want, you will see that the style has a waistline joining, and that is why I separated this part. I had to go ahead and label it, because if you don't, so here I'm going to put my strap there where I am pointing. If you don't like label your patterns very correctly, you may find it confusing while putting it together. Okay, so it's very important to label your pattern, bust, on the bust, waistline and all of that. Those landmarks help while while sewing the clothes. So you can see me, I have taped down the side bust darts, and I am trying to use the masking tape to form the bustier, just as you can see. So it's as easy as this. So I'll just go ahead and use the masking tape and form the bustier. So I'm just taking my time so that you see exactly how it goes. This is what you'll be using, sewing through when you sew with your sewing machine. I'll do this side of camera, and this is what I have. Please remember to put your seam allowances, because these are seamless patterns. use half inch every other part apart from the side. Yes, every other side of this pattern is half inch. Even this joining waist is half. Yes, you put half inch at this point that I am sticking together now. Half inch on the bust curves, that's the princess line, half inch. Except the sides, that's where you use 1 inch or 1.5 at most. So you can see what I have after joining the front, and then this is what I have for the back. Go ahead and place it really nicely the way it's supposed to be. So what I did was to cut it. You know that it has a waistline joining, so the back will not be different. So I had to cut through the waistline as I did in front, and I'm going ahead to close up the darts. So this is more like what you do when you stitch with your machine, okay? Just close up your darts or stitch down your darts, okay? And join all of these together. So I'm using my masking tapes to hold this in place. So this is what I have for one side of the back, and then go ahead and stick everything together just as you can see me do. Use your fabric. When you're cutting on fabric, as I said, every other part will be half inch for the back except the zipper allowance and of course the side, where you will add 1 inch or at most 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'll repeat what I did for the first side for the second side. So you know that however this paper comes out is definitely how the finished product is going to come out. Okay, so anything you see on paper is if it's fine, it means that the finished cloth will be perfect. That is the simple truth. Okay, so after doing all of this is what I have, and the opening you're seeing there is the zipper curve, and then this is the front. You're going to join on the shoulder. You can see how it's aligning. If you're not careful to take note of the left and the right and all of that, you may end up at this stage seeing that the back is on the right side, the shoulder of the back is on the right side, and that of the front is on the left side. So here you have to measure this part because that is what determines your gather. Okay, so when you measure this lower part, just as I measured now, you're going to multiply it by at least 2. But note that you can multiply whatever measurement you got there by 2.5 or even 3 inches. But minimum is 2 so that at least the gather will show. Okay, so now this is the paper I have. The paper is not up to 38 inches because what I got was 19 and times 2 is minimum. That is the minimum should be 38. But what I have here is 36, but I am going to manage it. I'm going to manage it because this is an illustration. So I slashed the paper into 2 and I'm going to try to form gathers on the side of the paper and then try to match it up on the asymmetric part of the dress. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to stick up this gathered part on the asymmetric part of this dress. So that is what I'm doing here. And after that, you're going to see the form of this dress. You can agree with me that this is perfect. It's exactly as you can see in the picture we are trying to recreate. So you can see what I have. You can make this gather part to be longer. Of course, it is longer even in the picture, so it can be as long as you want, but every other thing is the same. Now the next is to go ahead and trim off this. You know that there is always 1 inch that is added on this part of the bustier. Yes, to take care of any excess while joining. So at the end of the day, if you don't use it up, you can blend it on the armhole. I hope this makes sense. So after this, I'm going to put a strap on this part of the off shoulder. Okay, I'm going to put a strap. Note that you can as well put the strap and cut it together with this center front pattern. Yes, you can do that. This strap now, you can put it like this and then cut it together as one pattern, if this makes sense. So when you join it like this, you gum it, cut it together as one pattern. So after that, this is what I have. I'm going to use this and cut out another one because one will be for the front and the other one will be for the back. So after cutting it out, I'm going to go ahead and use my masking tape to stick it down. As I said earlier, you can still cut this all in one. Like when you're cutting the center front pattern, you ensure that you put this strap like this paper and cut it all in one on your fabric if you want to do that. Okay, just notch where the bustier will be joining so that you won't be confused on where the bustier ends. I hope this makes sense. So this is what we have for the front. Do you like? I feel it's perfect. Yes, I feel it's perfect. It's really looking nice and exactly like the pin picture. So you're going to do the same thing for the off shoulder part of the back as well. So this is what we have for the back. So on this off shoulder part of the back, I'm going to go ahead and also join that belt, sort of lacing this part, okay? This part that will form the lacing on the off shoulder. So I use my masking tape to stick it down. Please note that the seam allowances on this seamless pattern should be ½ inch except for the zipper area and of course the sides. So after doing all of this is what I got. You can agree with me that this is perfect. So you also form your gather like this. You can see how I closed the downside up with the masking tape. That is what you're going to do. Fix your zipper and of course join this to the front and make your complete dress. Ensure to complete the back with the gather. Okay, just as we did in front. So at the end of the day, this is what I got. You can go up ahead and lace up this off shoulder part just as you can see in this video. Yes, you can lace it up, and then this is the final, result, and I think I like it. So try it out and let me know what you got. Try it out and let me know. If you have any questions, ask in the comments. If you like this quick tutorial, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share so that others will see this lovely videos. This lovely video. You put your gather here, okay? Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for always stopping by to watch my videos. I do not take any of it for granted. So recreate it and let me know what your result is. Thank you, and of course I will see you in my next one. Love you all. Bye.